I want to get that clay out of the hole. I want to find the tunnel. I didn't think of much else, to be honest. I don't know if that's rock or wood, but it's immovable right there.
That single moment was all Vanessa Lucido needed to realize she hadn't just hit something, she had just changed the future of Oak Island. She wasn't searching for treasure. She wasn't expecting a breakthrough. But the second her drill collided with something that shouldn't have been there, everything shifted. The crew rushed over because what she hit didn't match anything ever recovered on the island. And the craziest part? It wasn't just one anomaly, it was several. Each one hinted at a secret no one on the team was ready to face. One object suggested an unauthorized operation hidden in the island's past. Another hinted that someone arrived on Oak Island long before the history books say they did. But the final discovery? That's the one experts are still debating behind closed doors, because if what Vanessa found is real, then Oak Island's entire timeline and everything we thought we understood about it is about to be overturned. Stay with me, because the last item she unearthed is the twist everyone missed, and the reason you'll want to watch this story unfold to the very end. If you enjoy uncovering mysteries like this, be sure to subscribe so you're here for every new revelation. It all began with a simple meeting. No dramatic lighting, no big reveal, just another planning session in the war room. But this one had a different energy. Rick Legina, unusually tense, called in Vanessa Lucido from ROC Equipment. On paper, it was just routine drilling talk, 7 feet or 10 feet wide, 220 feet deep or push beyond. Nothing extraordinary. But the timing was the giveaway. Because the moment this meeting wrapped up, new information surfaced, evidence pointing to a forgotten part of the island no one had bothered with in years. And what they were about to uncover went far beyond gold or treasure. The team had no idea yet, but they were about to be pulled straight into one of Oak Island's strangest, least understood legends. Buried inside 26 dusty boxes of Goodwin's archived papers were several letters. Letters that pointed to Oak Island in a way no one expected. 3 hidden caches, 3 locations, all tied together by a mysterious map that no one could prove was real. Until now. At first it sounded like a fantasy. X marks, carved stones, shapes, symbols. Pure storybook stuff. But when the team actually stepped onto the land and lined up the details, the fairy tale suddenly became a trail of real-world clues. The key was a map rediscovered among the personal papers of William B. Goodwin, a wealthy researcher obsessed with Oak Island back in the 1930s. Goodwin wasn't just a hobbyist. He had direct ties to Frederick Blair, the original money pit searcher. And Goodwin swore he had seen a legitimate treasure map. The problem? The original disappeared, but Goodwin's copies, his sketches, notes, measurements, survived. Enough to send Rick, Marty, Doug, and Terry trekking across lots 1 and 21, in search of something everyone assumed was a myth. This wasn't some fuzzy drawing. It was a carefully marked diagram, with distances, boulders, symbols, and a path to follow. 3 stones, 3 potential treasure sites. The first stone, a large slab marked with a bold carved X. The second, a stone with square-like symbols etched around another X. The third, a massive rock that looked like lightning had split it in half. At first, even Gary Drayton doubted it. Maps on Oak Island tend to lead to disappointment, old junk, buried wood, or absolutely nothing. But the second they found that first stone, everything changed. A wide, flat boulder, a clear, intentional X carved deep into the rock, and sitting exactly where Goodwin's map said it should be. Coincidence? If it was, It was the most impossible coincidence in island history. Gary scanned it. No metal, no coins, no treasure. But the stone was real. The X was real. And the map suddenly had teeth. The team pressed on. Stone 2 appeared just where the map predicted. The carvings were faint, worn by nearly a century of weather, but still visible, and matching Goodwin's notes perfectly. 2 stones, 2 accurate hits. Still no treasure, but the trail was heating up. Then came the real test. Goodwin's map included distances and directions. Walk 91 feet inland, parallel to Center Road. There, it claimed, you'd find a stone shaped like a kidney. If that strange, bean-shaped rock actually existed, it would prove, beyond theory, that someone truly placed these markers with purpose. The team measured, cut through brush, climbed uneven ground, and then they saw it. A big, curved, kidney-shaped boulder, exactly as described. 3 markers found. 3 perfect matches to a map nobody could ever authenticate. Until now. Still no treasure. But the map was proving itself, piece by piece. Then Judy Ruderbush read Goodwin's final clue. 1 last stone, split straight through the top like lightning had ripped it open. The team followed the terrain, letting instinct guide them. And there it was. A massive fractured boulder cracked cleanly in 2, revealing a hollow beneath it. Gary stepped up and swept the detector over the gap. This time, the machine screamed, a loud, sharp, unmistakable signal. They dug into the hollow, brushing away soil that hadn't been touched in decades, maybe centuries. And then their hands hit something heavy. Iron. This wasn't some random nail or a forgotten tool tossed aside centuries ago. What they'd uncovered was a hand-forged cribbing spike, the kind used long before modern machinery, easily dating to the 1700s, possibly even older. This wasn't island junk. This was intentional. And what Vanessa Lucido did after that pushed the entire operation into a new phase. The ground wasn't staying silent anymore. Vanessa never needed extra motivation to dig deeper, but now she had more than enough. That hand-forged spike buried beneath a deliberately split boulder wasn't just old. It didn't belong there naturally. No one accidentally hides a heavy industrial spike beneath a specifically marked stone. That isn't a mistake. That's design. And that made it personal for her. Always the tactician, Vanessa called in the reinforcement crew and prepped her ROC team. From here on out, the work wasn't about theories. It was about proving that someone, at some point, hid something with purpose. The drill plans were set. Push past 200 feet into ground, long assumed untouched. But what if it had never been untouched at all? Marty Lagina wanted more data, smaller casings, faster adjustments. Vanessa agreed. Using 7 to 8-inch casings meant they could advance quickly, maneuver around obstacles, and surround any possible target zone with precision. The island had whispered clues. Now, the team was ready to drag those answers into the light. While Vanessa locked in the drilling strategy, Gary Drayton and Jack Begley returned to the kidney-shaped stone site. No treasure had surfaced, but Gary couldn't shake the idea that the stones weren't isolated markers. They were part of something bigger. He mentally connected the dots: the split boulder, the kidney stone, the X-carved slab, the stone lined with squares. It wasn't random. It looked calculated, like someone had surveyed the land centuries ago. Then the curveball hit. Between the second and third stones, the detector led them to an old survey stake driven deep into the ground. Its style was ancient, its placement precise, and it aligned perfectly with the angles on Goodwin's map. And it wasn't the first time the island had thrown stakes like this at them. Fred Nolan had dug up similar ones in the swamp, and those carbon dated back to the 1500s. That single detail flipped the entire story on its head. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Goodwin's map. This stretched back hundreds of years, maybe farther. But that raised the real question. Who drove these stakes into the ground centuries ago? And just as important, what were they trying so desperately to hide? The team's focus instantly shifted back to the North Swamp, where strange layers were appearing. Stacked planks, tiered platforms, arrangements far too orderly to be natural. Historian Doug Crowell pointed out something everyone had missed. The elevation of these layers matched perfectly with the old cobbled stone road discovered seasons ago. Could the swamp planks be part of the same engineered pathway? A built surface to transport something heavy, something valuable, across unstable ground? Dr. Ian Spooner arrived to inspect. His reaction said it all. Stunned silence. The wood was ancient. Not driftwood, not storm debris. It had been placed there, used for a purpose, and then forgotten as centuries swallowed it up. Even more surprising, the plank structure continued much farther and deeper than anyone imagined. This wasn't a dock. This was large-scale engineering, industrial, in the old-world sense, as if Oak Island had once functioned as a work site, not for machines, but for secrets. Meanwhile, over on Lot 1, Vanessa's crew began their descent into the earth. The Arok drill roared to life, tearing through layers of clay and sediment with unwavering force. 100 feet, 150. At 200 feet, the drill hit resistance. First stone, then wood. Ancient wood. Vanessa ordered core samples, pulled up immediately. The first core surfaced, blackened, charred timber, burned, yet buried nearly 200 feet down. Why? Who burns wood that deep beneath the earth? Rick studied the fragment closely. This wasn't a recent burn. The age was obvious. The fibers were brittle. To Rick, one conclusion made sense. They weren't drilling through soil. They were drilling through someone's attempt to cover something up. Something had been burned, either to hide it or to seal it away. A second core came up. More wood, but this time clearly cut by hand. Saw marks, not modern machinery. The air shifted immediately. Hand-cut beams at that depth meant structure. A tunnel, a shaft, a feature someone. Old reports mentioned tunnels stretching west from the money pit. Tunnels no one ever confirmed. Until now. The third core broke the investigation wide open. Embedded inside the timber was something heavy. Not rock, not wood, metal. Corroded, green-tinged, fused to the beam like it had been set there intentionally. The lab couldn't fully identify it yet, but early readings showed traces of gold. This wasn't random. This was the first physical sign that something truly valuable might be buried below. And the deeper they drilled, the stranger it got. Layer after layer, the earth was giving up secrets older, darker, and more deliberate than anyone expected. It looked like the shaft itself was telling a story, but the twists weren't over. The next core they pulled up carried something no one expected: textile, a scrap of woven fabric, barely holding together, fragile as dust, yet unmistakably crafted by human hands. How could cloth survive under crushing layers of stone, water, soil, and centuries of decay? The answer was simple. It had been sealed away intentionally, protected on purpose. But sealed by who? And how long ago? Back in the war room, the team went straight into analysis mode. What was the fabric? A piece of clothing? A flag? A sack used to transport something? No one could say with certainty, but its condition raised a massive red flag. This wasn't just evidence of something being buried, it suggested someone wanted this object preserved, untouched. And that realization pulled everyone toward Lot 21, the quiet corner of the island overshadowed for years by the chaos surrounding the money pit and the swamp. Lot 21 had a legacy of its own. It once belonged to the McGinnis family, the family whose teenage son first stumbled upon the money pit in 1795. And strangely, that land had remained nearly untouched ever since. Using the Goodwin map and the alignment of the marker stones, Rick and Doug uncovered a critical clue. The three boulders formed a perfect geometric triangle, the kind surveyors use, the kind deliberately designed to point toward something. They compared the map's markings with old elevation data. Everything lined up, and the center of that triangle fell on a wooded rise between lots 1 and 21, a location no one had ever drilled. Gary Drayton and Jack Begley headed straight for the spot. Gary swept the detector slowly, methodically, waiting for the slightest signal. For a while, nothing. Then suddenly, snap, a bright, sharp hit. They cleared the brush and carefully dug into the soft ground. What surfaced wasn't random junk. It was a ring, crushed, corroded, ancient. A signet ring by the look of it. Possibly early 1700s. Maybe older. The engraving had worn away, but the form suggested purpose, identity, authority, leadership. This wasn't something someone dropped while taking a walk. This was a message, a marker left behind. And once again, momentum shifted. Vanessa ordered ground-penetrating radar over the triangle's center. The results came back loaded with anomalies, deep rectangular signatures, hollow pockets, solid formations surrounding emptiness. The kind of readings you'd expect from buried chambers, or collapsed tunnels, or something else engineered long ago. Vanessa knew what came next. She repositioned one of the ROC caissons, not for a full dig yet, but for a vertical test to probe the zone. And that's when everything changed. At 90 feet, soft clay. At 130 feet, burned timber. At 160 feet, suddenly nothing. The drill plunged into open space. Not a tiny air void, a real cavity. On Oak Island, empty space underground is no accident. It means someone built it. Vanessa ordered a borehole camera. The first images were shaky, sliding into darkness, until they weren't. At 170 feet, the camera caught something unmistakable, a flat, angled surface, too precise to be natural. It looked like cut stone, arranged and stacked, part of a platform, or a vault. The team froze. Rick stared at the monitor, studying the shape, the depth, the geometry. Everything matched old accounts and long-debated theories, particularly Frederick Blair's claim from 1897. The Chappelle Vault, supposedly resting 153 feet below the original money pit. Had they found it, or something else entirely? Because this wasn't east of the money pit. This was west, outside the normal grid, right in the zone highlighted on the Goodwin map. Back in the war room, someone crossed out the old title. The map now read, Goodwin Blair Composite. Blair's original map might be lost, but what Vanessa's drill was exposing made one thing clear. The data was aligning. And whatever they'd tapped into, it was only the beginning. Another core came up. Inside it, a bead. Small, simple, but intentionally shaped, crafted, polished, not natural, not accidental, and found more than 170 feet down inside a sealed chamber. Its material, possibly gold, brass, or a refined alloy, wasn't the shocking part. Its location was. Something shifted in the room. No one spoke it aloud, but Rick finally said it quietly. We've crossed into something different. This wasn't the money pit. It wasn't the swamp structures. It wasn't the stone roadway or the mysterious stone basin. This was new, untouched, intact, and intentional. Vanessa stared at the borehole feed. The chamber walls curved inward slightly, stone blocks aligned with precision, timbers braced in tight formation with no sagging or rot. Nature hadn't carved this. Humans had. The camera couldn't capture the full chamber, but what it did show was enough to raise enormous questions. Was this a completely different vault? Why wasn't it mapped? Why was it west of the money pit? And had the Goodwin map been pointing right here all along? Vanessa made the call. Expand the operation. Move from test drilling to full caisson drilling. She knew the financial stakes. Caissons aren't cheap. But with good weather and the ROC machines ready, the opportunity was too important to walk away from. 3 caissons were placed in a triangular layout, mirroring the boulders from the Goodwin map. Each shaft would target a different corner of the anomaly zone. The first caisson hit dense sand, then clay, then ancient interlocked timber. The second sliced through flat-cut stone and dropped into another void. The third caisson, that was the breakthrough. At 178 feet, the ground opened into a large chamber, far bigger than the team expected. When the drill pierced it, the pressure shifted. Air rushed upward, air sealed for centuries. The crew reacted instantly. A second, brighter borehole camera descended into the opening. Slowly, the chamber came into focus. About 10 feet across, about 5 feet high, walls reinforced with stone and timber, a structure built with skill, and in the center, something impossible to ignore, a rectangular object, metallic, partially buried. Geometry far too perfect to be natural. A chest, a container. Something important. The chamber showed no signs of collapse, no erosion, no randomness. This was engineered with precision, almost like a vault. Then the camera's light brushed against a faint marking on the wall, barely visible until illuminated, an X. The same X found carved into the surface boulder earlier in the season. The pieces were snapping together. Vanessa took a breath, faced the team, and said the words that shifted the entire mission. We need to excavate, not drill, a full dig. Dangerous, expensive, time-consuming. But walking away was no longer an option. Had Vanessa Lucido just uncovered the missing chapter of Oak Island's mystery, the one no one else ever managed to reach? What's inside that chamber? Why was it buried with such precision? And who put it there? Tell us your theories in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss the next discovery.